All right, Colts Nation, we are back again, still talking about these rookies. I mean, we are all so excited by this rookie camp. Every little thing that happens right now feels like a big piece of news, and I understand it. And I know anyone listening here right now is not just your average Colts fan. I know that you're like me. You bleed blue, are obsessed with this team. You're a die-hard Colts fan, and all of us die-hard Colts fans have been dialed in on what is going on in rookie minicamp. And we all know that day one, Anthony Richardson went 11 of 17, right? I'm reiterating the stuff. Over half of them went to Josh Downs. 6 of those 11 completions to Josh Downs in rookie minicamp. Now, is this actually relevant news that's going to, translate to something in August and September? Probably not, if I'm being honest, but we're allowed to be excited, right? I mean, hell, we're barely a week out of this draft. That high we're on is still fresh. Smoking on a little bit of that AR, right? I mean, we have quite a dead period here up until June, so we got to talk about something. We got to fill the time, and not for anything. We should be grateful, right? When is the last time that we've been this excited this early before the season? We're all trying so hard to learn more about these guys and support these guys. And while part of supporting these guys is hyping them up and making them feel loved, right? That is our job as fans, to make them feel supported and at home. We do also have to look at the other end of it, and we need to also set realistic expectations as to not set these boys up for failure, right? After all, as a fan base, we wanted a young quarterback from them, right? We wanted Ballard to go in and draft a guy. We didn't want these recycled dudes anymore. Well, guess what? Now we got it, right? So it's time for us to hold up our end of the bargain and be fair to these young gentlemen that we just drafted, these beautiful, beautiful gentlemen that we are also excited to see on the field. So for all of you that are negative, Colts fan or not, now's the time where you shut off the video, baby. I'm drawing the line in the sand. Save it for someone else. Anyone who's here, commenting on these videos, engaging with these videos, I want you to be supportive of our guys. That's the type of community I want to build, man. All about positivity, at least in terms of the Colts. Now, we'll be honest when it's necessary, but at this time of the season, let's just be supportive, right? So for those of you who are on that train with me, buckle up, because we got to attack this from a few different angles, right? If we're talking expectations, we have to, at least I think, break it down from 3 different angles, right? So we have to talk about it from the individual level. So 1 and 2 is going to be talking about individual expectations for Anthony Richardson, reasonable ones, of course, and then individual expectations for Josh Downs, reasonable ones, of course. And then, of course, we'll get into the expectations of what they can do together in the first season, kind of tie it all in a little bow. So we'll get right into it. But before we do, real quick, little housekeeping here. Welcome to those of you who haven't been here before. My name is Justin. This is the Ride on the Bench Colts cast. If you are as much of a Colts fan as me, just bleed blue, as I said earlier, if you could do me a favor, if that is true and you're also enjoying this video, go ahead and just shoot it a like. That will help me get out to as many people as possible. After all, my goals are to be a major player in the Colts community. I plan on doing this for the rest of my life. I'm going to be 85 years old, sitting in my recliner on this YouTube channel like, hey, you remember when Anthony Richardson won the Super Bowl for us back in 2030, right? I mean, that's what it's going to be. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to see me old and decrepit at 85 years old, go ahead and subscribe. But most importantly, enjoy the video. That's why I'm here. I'm making it for Colts fans to enjoy. So without further ado, why don't we get into Anthony Richardson, right? Now, this is a tough one for us. It's easy for us now, as we just drafted him, to talk about how young he is, 20 years of age, and how we need to be patient, how he has time to develop into that guy that we want him to be. Now, it's much tougher to put that into practice. For example, we'll look at the New York Jets, right? This is a team that did this twice in a row. They drafted Sam Darnold. They drafted Zach Wilson, 2 guys that were raw talents to some degree. Not saying they're the same as Anthony Richardson in any way, shape, or form, but just the concept of raw talents that we can be patient with and let them develop, right? Easy to say that at first, becomes much harder to apply that 3 years down the line when they're not playing good football. You know, when you have guys like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert that just come into the league firing on all cylinders. The days of patience for quarterbacks are well behind us. I mean, I remember Alex Smith. He took years to develop. Years. I mean, we're talking almost a decade it took for Alex Smith, but he became a very good winning quarterback. But that being said, it doesn't mean that those things don't remain true. Just because that patience isn't there doesn't mean it shouldn't be had. I mean, it's easy to forget now, but Josh Allen, who is the most common comparison to Anthony Richardson, or I guess vice versa, he's compared to Josh Allen often. Josh Allen took some time. His first 2 years were not very pretty. It wasn't until year 3 that he really came into his own as a passer, but he was raw and he was doing the things that he was good at early and he was working hard. Peyton Manning, we all know too well, 3-13 in his rookie season, and obviously the rest is history after that, right? So with that, I want to talk about what are the reasonable expectations. I've said this a few times, but for those of you who maybe skipped ahead, I want to make sure that you know what's going on. Let's start with Rookie of the Year, right? I see a lot of people talking about Rookie of the Year for Anthony Richardson. Now, obviously, we can hope for that, and we really would like that to happen, right? That's why we drafted him at number 4. But is it fair to expect that, right? Is it fair to hold it against Anthony Richardson this season if he's not in the running for Rookie of the Year? Now, some of you might say, yes, maybe. I would say maybe not. Let's not lose sight of the fact that he's considered to be a project, right? I happen to think there's a decent chance he'll be more ready than people expect him to be. But at the same time, to expect him to just light up the world and be the best rookie day one offensively, it's tough. There were some good receivers this year. Bryce Young in a good situation in Carolina, presumably. With, our former coach, Frank Reich, take that as you may, but Carolina has a pretty good situation. They've been dealing with a nice roster there, or building a nice roster there, for some time. So Rookie of the Year, I think, is a little bit much. That being said, we do have to hold, we being the fan base, we being Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard and anyone else who has a say in the decision, we have to hold AR accountable. So what is reasonable to require out of a guy in this season that is viewed as a rookie, or rather as a project? For me, it comes down to 3 things ultimately. 1, we need him to protect the ball and make the right play. I think it's fair to expect that. Hands on the football if you're under pressure. 2 hands, right? We can't get sloppy. Don't force it into double coverage, right? Just make the right play. Don't be a superhero, even though you are an absolute freak of nature. We want you to make the right football play. Don't lose us the game, right? Number 2, if you could come out there and just not look completely overwhelmed by the reality of playing amongst a bunch of grown men in the NFL, a la Zach Wilson back to the Jets, if you could not look overwhelmed and you could look mentally ready to prepare with the hardships that come with being an NFL quarterback, that I think is fair to expect out of him. And then number 3, is just continuously improve. I don't want to get to the end of the season if you being Anthony Richardson have played the entire season. I don't want to come out of it at the end of the season being like, well, did he really get that much better? I kind of want to see that progression throughout the season. That doesn't have to translate to us being amazing and making a run in the playoffs or any of that thing. But we want to make sure that Anthony Richardson is getting better every single week, right? So I think if things go well, as an expectation, to put some numbers on it for you analytics people. See, I'm a little kumbaya over here. I'm trying to appeal to everybody. I think we could be looking at 3,000, maybe 3,500 passing yards, plus whatever rushing yards are there to boot. And then, of course, some nice red zone rushing touchdowns I would expect to be there as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as the reasonable expectations for Anthony Richardson on an individual level. So now we can move on to Josh Downs in that same one, right? This guy right here, for good reason. I was huge on Josh Downs coming out of this draft. So to see him quickly becoming a fan favorite is awesome because this was a guy I wanted on the Colts really for at least a month or 2 before the draft. The chip on his shoulder, tremendous. The comparisons to T.Y. Hilton, lovely, right? But the question at hand that I'm posing in this episode, once again, what is the reasonable expectation out of Josh Downs in his rookie season? Now, as much as I love Downs, expectations, it seems that what I'm picking up are sky high for this kid right off the bat. I mean, a lot of us kind of, despite the fact that I love Pittman and I love Alec Pierce. A lot of us are kind of really waiting for that savior in the receiver room, right? And a lot of us want it to be Josh Downs, but I do want to be fair to the roster we have in place, right? Let's not dismiss the competition that Isaiah McKenzie is going to be in the slot. We all want him to start full-time day one. Maybe he will. But I think if it ends up being a rotational type of thing with Isaiah McKenzie, we as fans have to accept that as something that is okay, is reasonable. We can live with that. We can sleep at night, assuming he's competing well and getting better, right? Even beyond the slot and just that role right there, this is a situation where he's going to be competing for touches with a lot of dudes, right? You have the Jonathan Taylor. This is going to be a run-first team, right? So Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, I won't underestimate how many carries he might get. He might be in that 5 to 10 range himself. Of course, you're going to have Anthony Richardson's carries, Michael Pittman's in the offense, Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, right? All of these guys, Isaiah McKenzie. How many touches are there to go around? And then also the fact that Anthony Richardson is raw as a passer, right? And this is assuming he starts, of course. Now, having said that, he is the type of receiver that a young quarterback likes. A short, intermediate pass type of guy. Shifty, right? Separation. Young, inexperienced quarterbacks like to throw to big-bodied guys, right? The tight ends of the world, but they also like to throw to guys who have created separation. Early on as a quarterback, it is very, very difficult to trust what you're seeing enough to just pull the trigger on guys that are getting less separation. Guys like an Alec Pierce. Pittman, I think, gets separation kind of. I saw someone in the comment section compare it to like Alec Pierce being Mike Williams and Pittman being Keenan Allen. This is fine by me. I could live with that. But again, tough for a guy to throw it on the outside to a guy who hasn't gotten a lot of separation, like that 50-50 ball. Tough for a rookie to trust that. So this does bode well in Josh Downs' favor, right? So now let's tie it together and what we can expect to see from them as a connection. Is that the right word in season one? Now, rookie classes do tend to form a tight bond, right? But I do want to temper the expectations in terms of the numbers that these two put up together, right? When I think of how well these two fit together in a football sense, I do have to I expect them to find ways to get Downs the ball earlier. I expect them to have to do that, as opposed to those situations just creating themselves. Does that make sense? I hate to give Downs a hard time about his size, but I think we've seen enough from small guys overachieving to be able to look past that, right? For him on an individual level. But you do wonder, as far as it goes with him and Anthony Richardson, will AR have a tough time finding him down the field, right? Now, you think about the last time we drafted a first-round quarterback and a third-round receiver. We're talking about Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. Now, the difference in that situation as opposed to this one is that Andrew Luck was the type of guy out of college, was very, very polished as a passer, right? He kind of already had some of those nuances and intricacies to his throwing angles, right? I mean, he was able, to, when he needed to put air on a ball, he put air on a ball. When it was a tight zip of a throw, he was able to do that as well, and he was able to identify those moments. Those are the types of details that a raw passer like Anthony Richardson, we can't really expect him to know early on. For example, let's say you run a situation where you have Downs in the slot. He's running up and he runs some sort of in route or something like that, right? So he's under the safety and behind the linebacker. He has that pocket, right? Technically, he is open, but this can easily be picked off by a linebacker if you're going to throw that strict, right, on a rope as opposed to dropping it over him a little bit. Or maybe you even have a safety coming across on the other side of the field. You have to put that thing low so Josh Downs doesn't take a hit, right? Open isn't just black and white open in the NFL. A lot of the times you're throwing a guy open. And when a guy like that is smaller, like a Josh Downs, you really do have to be precise when you're pushing the ball down the field to him. Now, I'd imagine the way we're going to see them work together early on, I figure Josh Downs is kind of going to be this guy when Anthony Richardson is on play action and we're getting him out of the pocket, right? You have a guy like Downs coming across the field, whether it's on drags or crossers, and we see them create that space for Josh Downs to give a nice, clean, not pocket, what's the word? A nice, clean orb, that's not the word, not football terms, a nice clean bit of space to get him a nice open ball and then let him do what he does after the catch, right? So that's early look at all of this. We'll know as training camp comes with reports. Some of these takes might be outdated. I'm just trying to get us thinking about it early on. And realistically, my point in making this episode over everything else is to encourage us to be excited. I don't want to take away that excitement, but I do want to make sure that we are all fair to these guys as they ingratiate themselves into our hearts in Colts Nation that pump that blue blood, right, through our bodies. I want to make sure that we're fair to these dudes. So with that, you've made it through the entire episode. I appreciate you being here. If you made it this far, I mean, maybe I thought I was annoying at times, but you couldn't have hated it that much. This is where you shoot the like. This is where you subscribe, right? All those things that people ask you to do. If you've already done both of those things and you're looking for a way to help me reach my dreams of becoming a massive, massive, massive player in the Colts community, if you'd be so nice as to share this with someone else that you know that loves the Colts as much as me and you, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, I understand that's a big ask, but hell, I'm putting it on the table, and if you do it, you do it, right? You're a mega fan at that point, and I owe you one. So with that, you've listened to the Ride on the Bench Colts cast. Until next time, see man Justin right here. Go Colts.